Welcome back to another episode, number 31. We're talking the smoking gun. Let's get it. Another one for the home team. All praise to the Most High. Another one for the tribe. Let's get it. You know how we do it. We're talking lost tribes and promised lands, the seed of Abraham. Let me know what you think. Leave a note in the comments. I got one for you today. All praise, let's get it. We're talking dragon kings and queens, servants of the Shamayims. We ain't new to this, we true to this. You're now tapped in with Dragon Canoe. We're steadily rowing and we're constantly flowing. All praise to the Most High. Let's get it. Another one for the vibe, another one for the tribe. We out of here for this one. You know how we do it. We gotta get the vibe flowing. Get the flute going. For the lawlessness against Lebanon shall cover you. The destruction of beasts shall overwhelm you. For crimes against men and wrongs against lands, against cities and all their inhabitants. What has the carved image availed? That he who fashioned it has carved it for an image and a false oracle. That he who fashioned his product has trusted in it, making dumb idols. Ah, you who say, wake up to wood, awaken to inert stone. Can that give an oracle? Why, it is encased in gold and silver, but there is no breath in it. But the Most High in his holy abode, be silent before him, all the earth. Let's go, man. For there is no breath in them. We're talking Section 107 of the Copyright Act, providing the statutory framework determining whether something is a fair use. Talking criticism, comment, news reporting, teaching, scholarship, and research. Let's go. Episode number 31, The Smoking Gun. Let's go. Let me know what you think. Leave a note in the comments. Are you the dragons found here in America? Let me know what you think. We ain't new to this. We true to this, man. Because you're now tapped in with Dragon Canoe. We're steadily rowing and we're constantly flowing. Let's get it. We're talking about the frontier. The frontier. Europeans did not conquer wilderness. They conquered Indians. They did not discover America. They invaded it. Let me know what you think. So this one remind me of this, man. If y'all ain't seen this, we check it out. You know, we dodge the hijack at all times, but hey, it's worth it. Let's go. We're talking episode 31, The Smoking Gun. Let's get it. From nearly the first moment European immigrants set foot on the New World's fatal shores, white men and red men had engaged in constant bloody and usually one-sided combat. This was not by accident. In 1607, the London directors of the Virginia Company that established the Jamestown Company named the soldier of fortune John Smith as one of the expedition's leaders. We're talking military expeditions to your homelands, O Americans. Similarly, when English pilgrims dropped an anchor near Plymouth Rock 13 years later, they looked to an inexperienced military officer named Miles Standish. So anytime they come over here, this is purely military expeditions, man. Let me know what you think. It says the wars of conquest that followed had combined with starvation, disease, and societal collapse to result in the extinction of almost 90% of North America's pre-Columbian population. It says an estimated 9 million indigenous peoples perished. By the time Daniel Boone and his migrating pioneers were preparing for their journey into Kentucky, Native American tribes from the Canadian border to the piney woods of Georgia were being swept from their ancestral lands. It says, in effect, it was a slow motion genocide for the Hurons and Iroquois of the north, for the Delaware and Shawnee Wyandotte Mingos of the mid-Atlantic, and the Cherokee, Chickasaw, Creek, and Choctaw in the south. For the Floridas, the Seminoles were being hunted to extermination by the Spanish, whose conquistadors had taken to unleashing bloodhounds. Says even the more northwesterly peoples, such as the Ottawas, Chippewa, Miami, Kickapoo, and Sauk and Fox, were experiencing the rippling effects of white infestation in the forms of germ-ridden European goods traveling ancient trade routes. We're talking ancient trade routes. We're talking tan goop. Let's get it. The violent treatment of North America's eastern woodlands tribes forecast the blood trails that would crisscross the prairies of the American West a century later. Let's go. Let me know what you think, man. Like the nine said, at this point, everything's up for grabs. Let's episode number 31, The Smoking Gun. The Shawnee, like most Indians since that King George's War was but a preliminary clash between the two great European powers, says the Shawnee were perfectly positioned to take a leadership role among the many-fold Indians, for they had intimate connections over the decades, and those tribes were like spokes on a wheel with the Shawnee at the hub, and whoever directed or even influenced their actions stood astride the gateway to the North American interior. We're talking the gateway to the North American interior, man. We're just connecting the dots, staying in check, searching for the Melchizedek. Says to a young Anglo-American like Boone, the indigenous peoples must have seemed as alien as the fantastical creatures from the realm of Prester John. El Preste Juan. Let's get it. So why is Prester John being connected to the indigenous peoples who must have seemed as alien as the fantastical creatures from the realm of Prester John? El Preste Juan. Adding to the young Boone's admiration of the Indians' unearthly aura was the manner with which their medicine seemed to mystically commune with nature, right? Are we talking avatar type situation going on here? The manner with which their medicine seemed to mystically commune with nature, particularly their ability to use various plants to concoct healing. Says every European American man and woman was familiar with the legend of El Preste Juan, Prester John, the so-called Christian king priest whose territory was variously located, right? We've already done the math on that. Says conjured by devout medieval European chroniclers as the Muslim faith spread throughout the East and the Sahel, this potential Christian ally was said to rule over all manner of strange creatures. We're talking dragon kings and queens, servants of the Shemaims, including men and women with horns, cyclops, and humanoids with no heads, but eyes, ears, noses, and mouths in their chests. We're talking El Preste Juan, Prester John. Let's go, man. You know how we do. By the 1750s, white traders had penetrated deep enough into the heartland to report a thriving Shawnee town and tribal ceremonial center named Shalakatha. We're talking T'Challa Katha. Is the Black Panther really a Hebrew legend? Down in Ohio, we're talking Shalakatha. Named after a faction of the tribe, it was located on the Scioto River. Says the Shalakatha were one of the five principal divisions of the Shawnee Nation, and the block from which the tribal chiefs were generally selected. Wherever the band lived was known as Shalakatha Town, and a rough translation of Shalakatha as the fire that won't die. The fire that won't die is a reference to the Shawnee's sacred council flame kept alive by the eponymous division. We're talking Shalakatha Town, the fire that won't die. The multiplicity of relocations for Shawnee Shalakatha towns throughout Ohio in the 18th century says led to bewilderment. It's a continuing source of bewilderment to modern day chronicles. We're talking Mound Town, the current Ross County, Ohio, seat of Shalakatha, for example, was never an Indian town nor village. Moreover, contemporaneous whites affixed adjectives to the hamlets, new, big, little, that only added to the confusion. Daniel Boone, for instance, always referred to the second Shalakatha town as Old Shalakatha. We're talking three Shalakathas, New Shalakatha, Old Shalakatha, and Little Shalakatha. Right? We're talking mound cities, Shalakatha, Ohio, T'Challa, Katha. We're talking Old Shalakatha, Shawnee, Old Shalakatha, Shawnee, Shalakatha, Old Pickwoodtown, Tecumseh's birthplace, right? All smack dab right in the middle is Columbus, man. What are the odds? We're talking mounds, cities of gold. Says if the Ohio River was the beating heart of the old Northwest Territory, the Mississippi was the key to the continent. Says communication routes connecting Canada and the Great Lakes to French holdings in the West Indies. To England, control of the immense North American watercourse would form a defensive barrier, protecting her seaboard colonies from foreign entry. Perhaps most significant for each country, control of the Mississippi promised the containment of the other's colonial aspirations. The irony lay in the fact that the Spanish had gotten here first. Right? We're talking mounds, cities of gold. Although Christopher Columbus was erroneously rumored to have sailed past the mouth of the Mississippi during his third exploratory voyage, it says the first white man to record the existence of the river was Spanish navigator Alonso Alvarez de Pineda. His discovery was put into his ship's log on June 12, 1519. We're talking copper colored cons found here in America. There is no record of Alvarez de Pineda's ship sailing up the Mississippi. It says a succession of subsequent Spanish explorers dropped anchor off Florida, but only marvel at the tales of the Indians and of the mighty Father of Waters beyond the western horizon. We're talking the Mississippi. It says since then, Native Americans to the north and south of Kentucky, primarily the Shawnee and Cherokee, but also the Delaware, Miami, Mingos, Creek, and Chickasaw, had abided by an unofficial pact never to settle the land. So the tribes was tribed up. They said we're never settling the land of Kentucky. Was in essence a 40,000 square mile game park where all might hunt. All right, are we talking lost tribes and promised lands? The seed of Abraham. We're talking Kentucky. In 1738, a party of French Canadians descending the Ohio discovered what they also concluded were elephant bones near a marshy salt lick some 5 miles inland from the riverbank. The remains of the long extinct mastodons and mammoths drawn to the site at some point during the Pleistocene epoch gave and still gives the area its name, Big Bone Lick. Anybody from Kentucky, and what you know about Big Bone Lick, right? We're talking the remains of extinct mastodons, strange, fantastical creatures. Game parks, man. We talking Jurassic Park here, or we talking Kentucky? Let me know what you think. Leave a note in the comments. Talking Estevan, right? The Spanish, Columbus, cities of gold, Estevanico, as depicted in the 19th century allegorical painting of Spanish troops and an American Indian, courtesy of Tuskegee University Archives. Huckabee, Alabama. Let's go. We're talking Spanish and so-called American Indians. Who's leading who here? What's really going on? Let me know what you think. It says it was not until 1541 that the gold-seeking conquistador Hernando de Soto and the head of a party of 600 soldiers and a handful of priests, shaking my head, and a handful of priests, the Florida Panhandle to the banks of the Mississippi, near what is today the city of Memphis, Tennessee. Tennessee, Memphis. There he constructed flatboats, crossed over to present-day Arkansas, and became the first European explorer to explore the Mississippi Valley. Says boots of Spanish leather trod soil as far south as Louisiana and as far north as Missouri to search for treasure and heathen souls to convert or enslave. They did all this to record their findings to the crown of Charles I, man. You already know Charles V, Carlos Quinto, and the Incas, man. What's really going on here? We're talking Estevanico, cities of gold. For the royal governor of Virginia, William Berkeley, fruitful world of plenty that stretched from the far slope of the Appalachians to the great river to the west, the territory beyond the mountains may as well be marked on maps as here be dragons. We're talking drag and kings and queens, servants of the Shamayim, may as well been marked on maps as here be dragons, right? At this point, everything is up for grabs. Let's go. As far as most Anglo-Americans were concerned, the land was populated by a menagerie of wild beasts, even wilder savages. It says the English word derived from the French sauvage has its roots in the Latin silva, meaning wood. Connect the dots, meaning wood. Dragons, a fiery shooting meteor, a fierce violent person, male or female, as this man or woman is a dragon. Kings and queens, servants of the Shamayims, shooting meteors, Americans, Native of Americas, Aboriginals, or copper-colored races. Found here, right? Copper-colored races found here. Sauvage, silver, wood, and brown. A fierce violent person, female, and this man or woman is a dragon. Says it was used to describe Black Africans, brown Indians populating the Asian subcontinent, and even the forest-dwelling clans of Northwest Ireland. It says along America's eastern seaboard, it was taken for granted that the country's interior teemed with entities lusting to maim or kill. Entities lusting to maim or kill. Black bears, wolves, rattlesnakes, panthers, shooting stars, and feral humans whose mode of dress, clannish culture, and chopped guttural languages struck European ears as barely apes. Right? Tell me what's going on here, man. We're talking copper-colored people found city. In a widely publicized speech to the Colonial Congress 1 year earlier, the so-called founding fathers, Ben Franklin was one of the first to recognize that the conquest of the Ohio Valley was the key to America's future. The conquest of the Ohio Valley was the key to America's future. The great country back to the great country back of the Appalachian Mountains. Franklin suggested two new colonies be settled immediately in the territory, one based on Lake Erie and the other on Scioto. The Scioto Basin was home to scores of Shawnee villages in Shalakatha that was apparently beside the point to Franklin, beside the point. Shalakatha Town, Shalakatha Town was the key to America's future, according to Ben Franklin. We're talking mound cities of gold. Let's go. Says the design of the Great Seal of the United States of America, which appears on the U.S. dollar bill. We're talking founding fathers. Declaration of Independence, 1776. Shalakatha Town being the key to America's future. The Great Seal of the United States set within a triangle, a single eye, surrounded by rays of light. On the seal, the whole rests on top of its unfinished pyramid. Let's go. We're talking mound cities, mound towns. Shalakatha, Ohio, a mere precursor to a larger conflict as to whether the red or white race would control the verdant lands to the north and the south of the Ohio River. It says the magical kingdom of Kentucky, the magical kingdom of Kentucky that set sparked to Boone's imagination. Most intriguing was Finley's description, gleaned from the Shawnee, of a V-shaped notch in the 100-mile-long Cumberland Mountain. Says the cleft was part of an ancient buffalo trace set astride in a major Native American road. We're talking the magical kingdom of Kentucky. Let me know what you think. Leave a note in the comments. Says this cleft in the mountains, part of an ancient buffalo trace. This route was taken by southern and northern tribes when they raided each other's holdings. Atiamiowi, the North Indians called the trail in the Algonquian tongue the path of the armed ones, or more succinctly, the warrior's path. And though Finley had never seen it, he was told that this corridor into Kentucky, well known to the tribes but still hidden to most whites, lay somewhat to the west of Boone's Yadkin Valley home. It was the first Boone had heard of the Cumberland Gap, the path of the armed ones, the Cumberland Gap. Says the dozen or so clans that made up the Shawnee were divided into 5 distinct patrilineal divisions, with each band assuming hereditary responsibilities that fulfilled obligations of the tribal culture. We're talking Makoshe faction provided diplomats and medicine men. The Pokoi were charged with keeping ancient religious rituals. Shalakatha and Tawakila generally shared the burdens of political leadership in times of peace. Thus, the keepers of the fire that won't go out, the fire that won't die, to Shalakatha town. While war chiefs were usually, but not always, chosen from the more martial Kispako. Kispako, talking Pupunshinwa, Tecumseh's father from the martial Kispako. Let's get it. War chiefs. Boone, of course, had no way of knowing that his troop entered what geologists would call the ridge of the Central Appalachians. This physiographic belt forms a broad arc between the Blue Ridge and the Cumberland Plateau. The ridge and valley gouged by an ancient meteor. We're talking Cumberland Gap, the first gateway to the west, created by a meteor. A meteor. We're talking shooting stars. We're talking dragons. We're talking dragon kings and queens, servants of the Shamains. The first gateway to the west, the Cumberland Gap, indentation known as the Narrows. It says Boone and his party negotiated the Cumberland Gap. His journey opened a new chapter in the history, if not the mythology, of a country that within the decade would become the United States. So we're talking about the Great Seal of the United States, sets a triangle and an eye above an unfinished pyramid. T'Challa Town being the key to America's future, according to Ben Franklin. Says the crater that Boone and his companions were staring at is the Astrobleem Gouge, about 300 million years ago, they say, when a meteor or dragon measuring some 1,500 feet across slammed into the earth at 40,000 miles an hour. The impact left an indentation 3.7 miles in diameter. Says the waters were drained in the late 19th century to create the Kentucky town of Middlesboro, home to about 10,000 people today, they say, and the only United States municipality built in a meteor crater. What y'all know about Middlesboro, Kentucky? The only United States municipality built in a meteor crater. I don't know what you think, man. Talking to settlers, right? So-called founding fathers Thomas Jefferson saying, I think the most important object which can be proposed with such force is the extermination of those hostile tribes of Indians who live between the Ohio and the Illinois. Right? We're talking T'Challa towns, found cities of gold, being the key to America's future. Founding fathers, the United States Great Seal, ancient pyramid. We're talking about cities. Says the Irish-born teamster John Finley's tales of an Eden-like land, right? We're talking copper-colored cons found here. An Eden-like land west of the Appalachians that the Indians called Kentucky, place of lush meadows, Kentucky. Finley had previously dropped down from the Ohio, and although the Appalachian Mountain Range was thought to preclude exploration of Kentucky from the east, Finley further intrigued Boone with the story of a rumored gap. We're talking gap created by a meteor that led into this Tramontane paradise. Paradise, right? We're talking Kentucky, Tramontane paradise, Edenic, Cumberland Mountain, the Cumberland Gap, Kentucky, right? Pioneer Boys, right? Let's go. Let me know what you think. Leave it in the comments. Says on a more cynical note, Clark bided time in his Ohio River camp. It undoubtedly occurred to him that any defeated talk or retreat from the Aborigines could drive down the value of Smith and Kentucky holdings. It says he was either fit of either boldness or madness, for now he entertained the notion of leading a company of 90 men downriver to attack the main Shawnee town of Shalakatha. Luckily for the combustible Virginian, the more experienced intervening militia officers, while Michael Prester talked him out of the confrontation. But Colonel Andrew Lewis, with 75 militiamen, his brother included, were killed during the engagement. They didn't get the warning. They tried to march down to Shalikatha town, and it went down in Prophet's town. Another 140 or so were wounded. The next morning, some 33 Native American bodies were collected from the battlefield. Their corpses were promptly scalped. Indians may have carried away or rolled into the river. How many Indians we may never know. Although colonial losses severely outnumbered Indians, the battle was a major defeat for the Shawnee and Mingo, and both sides recognized it. So it went down in Prophet's town, saying among the Shawnee casualties was one of Cornstalk's top lieutenants, the Marshal Kispako, Shawnee Pukishinwa, saying father, the prophet's father, Pukinshinwa, grievously wounded and ferried back across the Ohio before he died. Pukinshinwa extracted from his sons a promise to never stop battling the white invaders. Shinwa's six-year-old son, Tecumseh, destined to become a fabled warrior chief, was to hold fast the vow he made to his father. We're talking Tecumseh, Kentucky, Transylvania Purchase of 1775 is going down in Prophet's Town. 1775, we have the Transylvania Purchase. They buy the lands of Kentucky, just north of Tennessee, east of Virginia, south of Indiana, Ohio, and Illinois. We're talking the Transylvania Purchase. 1776, Declaration of Independence. Says 1775, the North Carolina Superior Court Justice Henderson land speculators formed the Transylvania Company. They negotiate the purchase of western lands from the Cherokee Nation. Their plan was to establish a separate colony to the west of Virginia in defiance of colonial authorities. The Transylvania Purchase was denounced as illegal. Similarly, a coalition of eastern woodlands tribes, led by the Shawnee, vowed to make war on any groups intending to settle what they considered their ancient ancestral hunting grounds, the heathen like Kentucky. Says, unlike his elders, Dragon Canoe still came to fight. Says quite sensitively that the land the Cherokee had just deeded to the whites was not even theirs to sell. Even if it had been, he told his father, the newcomers would not stop there. Also warned that the Americans would soon force their way into Tennessee, reducing the Cherokee Nation to begging for scraps like they owned Catawba. So Dragon Canoe, Puchinwa, Cornstalk, Chief Blackfeet is going down in Prophet's Town, the Transylvania Purchase, 1775. Dragon Canoe was livid at his father's intransigence. I think I said that right. He told Henderson and Boone that they would come to rue their purchase of the bloody ground and warned them that it would be dark and difficult to settle. Dragon Canoe's premonition is undoubtedly the source of the two common mistranslations of Kentucky as the dark and bloody ground. Kentucky, the dark and bloody ground. Dragon Canoe said it's going down in Prophet's Town, Kentucky. Says Virginia's Governor Dunmore added his own protest, labeling Henderson's pretended purchase unethical along the same ground as North Carolina's Martins. Says a committee of Virginia legislators, including Thomas Jefferson, including the so-called founding fathers Thomas Jefferson, Patrick Henry, so-called Ben Franklin, Chillicothe Town being the key to America's future, the Great Seal of the United States, a triangle above an unfinished pyramid. We're talking mounds, cities of gold. Convened to investigate the parameters of King George III's authority in granting the land was to forbear the sale of any lands west of the mountains by to anyone. Neither Jefferson nor Henry admitted to being secret land speculators. So these so-called fathers, these secret land speculators into America's future, the destruction of the Indians. Again, the Great Seal of the United States of America, which appears on the U.S. dollar bill, set within a triangle, a single eye, surrounded by rays of light, on top of an unfinished pyramid. We're talking Mount Town, Chillicothe, Ohio. mound cities of gold, the key to America's future. Says in the end, dragon canoes endeavor to halt or push back the whites seeking to cross Trans-Appalachia was smashed by the Continental Army's Charles Lee, whom George Washington, right, we're talking founding fathers, placed in command of his southern force. This is known as the Cherokee Campaign of 1776. Let's go. Lee's punitive expedition was a three-pronged affair involving troops from South Carolina, North Carolina, and Virginia, invading and crushing the tribe in its home territory. Right? Talking guerrilla warfare on the tribe, man. Over 50 Cherokee towns and their adjacent farm fields and vegetable fields were burned out by Lee's soldiers, leaving the survivors without food or shelter as the winter loomed. Dark days, man, it's going down. Let me know what you think. Surveying the devastation, many Cherokee abandoned dragging canoe and beseeched their older chiefs. The terms were harsh. The treaties Lee imposed on the Indians marked the first time the tribe ceded ancestral lands to the Americans, including centuries-old settlements, as opposed to wilderness hunting grounds like Kentucky. So they're giving up lands, they burning their crops, and dark days, man. Let's go. Says the capitulation caused such a schism, that an unrepentant dragon canoe and what remained of his followers withdrew deep into the wilds of northern Alabama and the southern Tennessee interior. Says there would continue the resistance against the United States for decades, establishing what we call Chickamauga Creek. We're talking Chickamauga Cherokee, the dragon canoe, the unrepentant dragon canoe. They drew deep into the wilds of northern Alabama and southern Tennessee and fought against the United States for decades along Chickamauga Creek. Let's get it. Lent the hostile bands their new name, the Chickamauga Cherokee, talking Chickamauga Creek. At the same time, fearing further mischief from the Shawnee and the Mingos in wake of the botched kidnapping of a host of Kentucky settlers, including most of the women and children, begin a second wave of mass evacuations. Again, it's going down in Prophet's Town, the hostile Chickamauga Cherokee, mischief from the Shawnee and Mingos. August of 1776, they say, someone came bearing a copy of the Virginia Gazette, which contained a transcript of America's Declaration of Independence. The community's residents reacted to Thomas Jefferson's sublime document. Again, these so-called founding fathers, Cumberland Gap, Transylvania Purchase, Kentucky, taking out Chillicothe Town, man, it's going down in Prophet's Town, Chickamauga, Cherokee. So-called, man. Look at these so-called founding fathers, straw men. It is a remarkably clear-eyed piece of ethnography. Adair devotes the entire book to his argument that the American Indians were a lost tribe of Israel. A lost tribe of Israel, the American Indians. A kink, Thomas Jefferson called this, no doubt chuckling, knowing the truth, when he told John Adams about it later. Note that Jefferson himself didn't have a more than a few delusions about the Indians, as his own infamous note to the state of Virginia attests. A remarkably clear-eyed piece of ethnography. Adair devotes the entire book to his argument that the American Indians were a lost tribe of Israel. A kink, Thomas Jefferson called this, but the Chillicothe towns are key to America's future. Let me know what you think. Leave a note. Says the Cherokee renegade dragon canoe had proven a prophet. Along with the tidings of revolutionary triumphs came news that Dragon Canoe had convinced his followers to take the warpath. Says over 300 warriors had boldly attacked the three American stockades simultaneously. Says McGary warned when the territory the Virginia legislature had only just absorbed, the state could very likely be shorn of its entire population when the winter weather broke. It was about to go down in Prophet's Town. McGary warned the Virginia legislature that everybody could get taken out as soon as the weather broke because the Indians ain't playing. He envisioned a massive attack of Cherokee from the south, Shawnee from the north, and even Miami from the west. We are surrounded with enemies on every side, and every day increases their number, McGarry wrote. So the tribes, man, it was going down in Prophet's Town, man. As I say it one more time, So he envisioned a massive attack of Cherokee from the south, Shawnee from the north, and the Miamis from the west. Theory proved no less prophetic than Dragon Canoe. 8 days after a courier rode east with his letter, 60 to 70 Shawnee and the war chief Blackfish appeared outside Harrodsburg State singing their war song. The water will wash them away. The wind will blow them down. Darkness will come upon them, and the earth will cover them. Chief Blackfish outside Harrodsburg State, Dragon Canoe, and Chickamauga Cherokee is going down in Prophet Town, man. Let me know what you think. All praise to the Most High. Another one for the truck. Episode number 31, The Smoking Gun. It's all up for grabs. Let me know what you think. Leave a note in the comments. We out of here for this one.